A number of years ago, it was a Shabbos morning, a winter Shabbos morning. I was a bacher in yeshiva, 770. Of course, Shabbos morning, before davening, you learn Chassidus, the minig, in Toim Chetmimim, in Lubavitch, that before davening, especially Shabbos, you learn Chassidus. And as I was sitting there learning with a chavrus of mine, a maimer, an elderly man walked into shul amongst the bacher, and he asked me if he could join us in learning. I said, for sure. And he sat down and he joined us. I thought he would just sit down quietly and let us continue learning and just sit there and listen. We're yeshiva students. Yeshiva bachrim, Talmidei yeshiva. But after a few silent moments, he interrupted us. He stopped the learning. And he said, what does this mean? What the words you just read, what does it mean? And then a few lines later, he stopped us again. He said, what does this mean? What do these words mean? And this kept on happening. Initially, I thought it was just one question. And he kept on asking and stopping us and interrupting us. But it wasn't questions like deep questions, iyumdike questions, lumdis. It seemed to be very petty, very technical. He was gribbling, he was nitpicking, taking apart words. What's the difference between this word and that word? And when we finished learning, I turned to him, I said, tell me. He was much older than me. I said, when you were my age, younger, when you were a Talmud in yeshiva, this is how they taught you to learn? I've never learned like that. You learn, you try to understand what it's talking about, but to nitpick every word. And I said, this is how they taught you to learn? So he answered me. He said, when I was in yeshiva, we didn't learn. We didn't learn at all. In my times, we couldn't learn. You see, my friends, he was in yeshiva. Unlike myself, yeshiva in New York, in America. He was in yeshiva in Stalinist Russia. He said, in my time, it was very difficult to learn. They hounded us. We would learn in a Ezras Nashim of an abandoned shul where nobody was during the week. Eventually, we were discovered. We knew they were going to come looking for us, so we had to run away to find a new place to establish the yeshiva. Could you imagine a yeshiva that every few weeks has to pack up and reestablish himself somewhere else? The pizur nefesh, the lack of menucha, the lack of Yishuv Adas. He said, when we were in yeshiva, we couldn't learn. He tells me a few years later, things got a little better in the Soviet Union. He started telling me names, this one, that one. They were already able to learn. He says, in my times, we couldn't learn. I said, so what did you do in yeshiva if you didn't learn? My friends, that's like saying there's a restaurant that doesn't serve food. A yeshiva where you don't learn. What? A bakery that doesn't bake bread. A yeshiva doesn't learn. I said, what did you do if you couldn't learn? That means, what did they do when they couldn't learn? When at night they were trembling, afraid of when are they going to hear somebody opening the door. When they couldn't learn because they didn't know who's going to be arrested next. When they didn't learn because they didn't know where else can they run to. Where else can they hide. That's why they couldn't learn. Of course they wanted to learn. They didn't have the focus. They didn't have the serenity, the peace. I said, so what do you do in yeshiva if you didn't learn? What are you doing in yeshiva if you don't learn? He tells me, when we were in yeshiva, when we couldn't learn, we used to Farbrengen. What we're doing here tonight. He said, we used to sit together with the mashpia, and we used to Farbrengen Monday night, Wednesday night, Thursday. When we couldn't learn, we used to Farbrengen. Hold strong, say l'chaim, Farbrengen together. I said, well, what is it to Farbrengen about so much? I mean, how much can you Farbrengen? If there's nothing of substance to hold it together. He tells me, let me tell you what we used to Farbrengen when we were in yeshiva. At that moment, my friends, it was time for Shachris to start. This was already after the learning. The Chazan finished saying Rabbi Yishmael, Shibana Beis HaMikdash, and this individual stood up to say Kaddish. Really, what should have happened is he finished Kaddish, we started davening, but I wasn't ready to daven. He left me hanging. So when he finished Kaddish, I said, you were about to tell me, what did you do? And we continued to talk. And he told me the following. He said, I'll tell you one episode. And this is an example, and from here you'll learn for all the other nights. He says, there was one night, the mashpia that at that time was the famous Chassid Mendel Futterfass, was our mashpia. He said there was one night, he wasn't in the yeshiva, And he came back late at night. He gathered us together. He sat us down and he told us the following. He said, I was just taken for questioning by the Soviet authorities, by the police. What did they question him? They asked him the following question. They presented themselves as university professors. Two well-dressed individuals, tailored suits, fine silk ties. They wore gold cufflinks. And they said to him, we are in charge of a Judaica department in the university. And one of us, one said, pointing to his colleague, specializes in the study of Hasidism. And we have a question as a part, as a member of the Hasidic community. We want to ask you the following question. We've done our research. Professors do research. We've done our studies. We looked throughout the Soviet Union and we found something remarkable. They told him, and he repeated to the Talmidim that night. They said, we found there are cities in Russia, there are cities in the Soviet Union, where you have great Rabbonim, old Rabbonim, Talmidei Chachamim, long white beards. They sit with the Gemaras, and they harve Yom V'Layla, the old Shas Gemaras. It's based on the ambience here. I feel like it would be here. The old big Gemaras, not like they make them now. You know what I'm talking about. The heavy Gemaras. Big, yellow pages. Sitting and learning. The Rav sits with the Gemara, well-worn pages and Masechtas of Shas. And while the Rav is sitting and learning, doing what a Rav does, they said the communists come in. They shut the schools. They close down the chadarim. They stuff the mikvahs. They take the kids who were learned in cheder and they put them in communist schools. They had special youth programs for the children where they would be indoctrinated with communist beliefs and ideologies and philosophies, of course atheistic. And all the while the Rav is sitting and learning Gemara. And from the city, in a short time, there's nothing left. It's a churban, it's nothing. It's all done. Yiddishkeit is completely uprooted and destroyed. They said, but then we found something remarkable, counterintuitive. We want you to explain it to us. There are other communities in this vast country where there is no old Rav. There's a little bit of Yiddishkeit. There's nothing there, no Yiddishkeit. And one day, and my friends, I'm repeating to you the words he told me. He said it to me in Yiddish, I'm translating it into English. One day a young chassid walks in. A junge chassidol, he said. Often they don't even have a beard yet. Just a few hairs, a few facial hairs. They're so young, they don't even have full beards. Not white beards like the great Rabbonim, elder Rabbonim. Not even full beards like Jungelite. He said, apar haralach, a few hairs on their face. Young men. Today we'd call them boys. They come into the city that has nothing, and overnight there's chaos. Suddenly there's children being gathered together that are once again sitting with Hamalamet to teach them Kametz Alafah, Bereishis Bar Elikim, Anoichi Hashem Elikecha, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elikeinu Hashem Echad. A short time goes by, somewhere, somehow, there's a mikveh that's reopened. Jewish women can go to the mikveh again. Yiddishkeit begins to sprout, begins to flourish, and begins to blossom. Reb Mendel said, they looked at him and they said, we don't understand. How could it be that on one hand you have cities with old great Rabbonim, where the communists are able to do what they want, all the while the Rav is still sitting with the Gemara. And here you have other cities, young yeshiva students come in, Hasidic yeshiva students, the students of Taib Chitmimim, the students that learn Chassidus, the students that learn the teachings of the Balatanya, the Shulchan Aruch, the Rav, the Alter Rebbe, for whose simcha we're gathered here tonight. And they come in where there is no Rav and there is no Rabbinat. There are no big Gemaras. And somehow they have that koyach to transform the city entirely, yesh ma'ayim, to come into a place where there's a midbar shmama in Yiddishkeit, and suddenly Yiddishkeit begins to flourish. And they said to him that night, they said, tell us, What is the secret? And my friends, I repeat you the words that this Yid told me, that were the words that Mendel told him that night, what he heard from these people. They said, tell us, what is the secret from the atomic energia, is what he told me that Shabbos morning, of this atomic energy. And was Chassidus vermochten sich, that Chassidus has in it. They asked him, what is the secret of this atomic energy? Atomic energy, that was the big word back 50, 60, 70 years ago. What is the secret of this atomic energy? That a young chassid can come into a city that has nothing and create something from nothing. Yesh Shemayim. Atomic energy. What is the secret that Chassidus has in it? We are professors of Chassidism and we want to understand. We're asking a chassid because we can't figure out this enigma. We're mystified. We can't figure it out. So all the Talmidim are sitting and listening, and they looked at Reb Mendel. No. So what did you answer the professors? He said, of course I didn't answer them. Of course I didn't answer them. They weren't professors. They were police. They were investigators for the Gapo, NKVD. He said, how'd you know? He said, because in Russia at that time, nobody had a tailored suit. Nobody dressed like a mensch. Nobody had money for clothing. If anybody dressed like a mensch, you knew he was working for the government. No professor looked like that. He said they were police. There was nobody to talk to. They were just trying to squeeze out information. It was just another tactic. They tried like this, they tried like that. He said, but Reb Mendel Farbrengen with us the whole night. That's a night I will never forget the rest of my life. The entire night we Talmidim sat with him. In the dark, decrepit Ezus Nashim. Without, where the windows were boarded. So no noise can escape. So no unwanted guests will come in. And he spoke to us at night. They couldn't learn properly during the day the way we're able to learn today. Harav and Harashba, Bimesamek and Atoisvis, Hamaram Shif, Hamaram Shik, Rishonim, Achroinim, Poskim. They learned. How much can you learn when your life's on the line? When you don't know when you're going to be arrested? You learn. He said, but the whole night he sat with us. And he said, these godless atheists, the communists themselves have realized that Chassidus is atomic energy. No, what are we waiting for? When are we going to realize the koyach that the Alter Rebbe gave us, the power that the Balatanya infused us with through his Torah? He said that's what he spoke to us a whole night. Children, realize what we have. It is priceless and precious. The goy who hates God himself recognized that there's something here. There's something unexplainable. There's something different. There's something unique. No, what are we waiting for? My friends, we're gathered here tonight. This is the Balatanya, the Alter Rebbe Simcha. This is the Torah of the Alter Rebbe. I'm not telling you a theory. I'm telling you something that happened. What the person told me that Shabbos morning. My friends, he never forgot that night, and I never forgot that Shabbos morning. It was just a regular Shabbos morning, a winter Shabbos morning, but it wasn't, because I heard something firsthand. It's different.